Before the video begins, I would like to formally not apologize for my year of rest and relaxation. Primarily because it was not very restful or relaxing. Enjoy the video. Being raised as a baby soldier, then free VR. Indoctrination and bad living conditions isn't the full extent of Metal Gear Solid 2's dive into simulation. It goes much deeper, to the extent of true realist horror, in that everything you see, feel, know, and experience isn't real. Your life is fiction.
No, that is not Solid Snake.
Between the release of 1 and 2, a little Hushed Whispers film released. You may have heard of it. It's called Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. It's actually The Matrix. It's quite obvious how much of an impression this film had on cinephile Kojima's singular brain cell. And it's incredibly commendable that it took many terrifying elements of this film while expanding upon and arguably making them spooky scarier. Reality being a computer simulation is strange, bizarre, and, for the most part, unbelievable. However, it is a genuine theory that some people abide to since the release of this film. Metal Gear Solid 2 asks you, what if that subtle, unknowable, ever-present yet invisible control of your consciousness is real? There is no simulation. There doesn't need to be. You're trapped in a cognitive hellscape, no matter your reality. Other works reflecting this fabrication of reality can include something as blatant about it as, say, The Truman Show, which has an actual syndrome named after the film. Or perhaps something a bit more subtle and low-key as Hot Fuzz. The Matrix is the digital simulation equivalent to The Truman Show's media-based and Hot Fuzz's societal outlook on this theory. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a conjoined meta-narrative analysis of all these in one. Fiction, reality, virtuality, history, society from Joker 2019, and of course, gaming culture. There are of course real-world occurrences, such as the Mandela effect, which some dumbasses are trying to provoke more, and I know not why. Fiction or not, these ideas are real. Guys, I swear to you that Curious George had a tail. I promise you. I remember, I was a little baby boy, I was watching the movie, it was literally the first scene in the movie. You had the acoustic song going, upside down, da-da-da-da, all kind of things that see just can't be found. And then he's swinging from branch to branch, and you know what he uses to swing? He uses his tail for at least one of those. He had a fucking tail, I remember! But now, nothing makes sense to me. And it's all Curious George's fault. All events of the game are a setup to turn Raiden into the perfect, super sexy super soldier, or at least as close to one as they can make by simulating the events of Shadow Moses. Every similarity between this and Metal Gear Solid 1 isn't just a lack of ideas, it is the idea. Or a very clever workaround for the lack of an idea.
What's going on? Snake! Snake!
Raiden has a very similar arc to that of Snake from the first game, and it works in spite of itself. That was the exact intent of the Solid Snake simulation.
Jack, I've been watching how you fight. It looks like you've remembered the way you used to kill in the old days.
You, the player, may have done these things before, but Raiden hasn't. He simply read about the events, and from that limited knowledge can question the links he sees, yet despite this, he has no choice but to accept what is as is.
His body was positively ID'd 2 years ago. Snake is dead. And buried.
Solid Snake is dead! The internet said so, guys! While Solidus sought to use this fabrication for hardening Raiden mainly, the intervention of Snake himself, unbeknownst to Dead Cell, is what made Raiden genuinely learn the past lessons of Snake. His ideals and morals, elements that only he could truly know himself. Given the greater works at play, even Solidus's own idea was being used against him. One could make an argument against free will with Raiden. Raised to listen, follow orders, he rejects the past actively, yet doesn't see much for the future. He is trapped in belief of the present and the situation he finds himself in, trapped in the confines of the fictional world, both of the game and his reality as a character.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
Questioning Raiden, as well as the player's free will, is the perfect example of video game narrative.
The president, why did you...
Alas, my finger must have slipped. I'll see you around, carrier boy.
Forget him. He did us a favor.
Fourth wall breaks or acknowledgement of poor decisions in film are seen as satirical at best, and at worst, bad writing. In a game, you can't exactly fault a character for making the worst decision possible, because you did it too, you fucking dumbass.
The result is a Foxhound Commando. When Foxhound no longer exists, a simulated Solid Snake shaped by VR regimen. Sound like someone you know, Jack? I'm sorry to see you reduced to one of the Patriots' puppets.
When Raiden is inevitably called out, as are you.
Is he one of the terrorists then?
No, somehow I don't think so. If there's someone to suspect, I'd put my money on you.
Despite the foils working against Raiden, Metal Gear Solid 2 shows how genuine human interaction can influence someone more than that of online. Raiden, for the most part, questions the Colonel, yet is more agreeable to Snake even as Pliskin, his only real-world means of solace. More him than even Raiden's own girlfriend. That's how you know it's fake. Gamers don't have girlfriends. With Snake's involvement, the game uses his new role to represent a spread of false information and how reality itself can be controlled to most. The codec plays into the trend of information control a lot. We at the very least know Snake not to be dead, because, I mean, let's face it, gamers are dumb little stupid baby men, but not dumb enough to be trolled that epically. The game pulls the player along with a string of blatantly questionable lies, yet Raiden, and therefore the player, proceed to follow orders from those they shouldn't trust. Why? Because, I mean, you can't beat the game any other way. The codec is the perfect way to filter information shown versus information told. In its literal function, it's merely a phone call. There is no display, so to speak, for Raiden or Snake. This means, for example, when Raiden is told Snake is dead, he is only told it. We are given the visual information to accompany it.
Right, but he can't be the Solid Snake. He died 2 years ago on that tanker after he blew it sky high.
No, he's not involved in this one. His body was positively ID'd 2 years ago.
Snake is dead.
And buried.
I found some information on where Solid Snake is interred.
Great. Shoot.
I've located the grave site,
And the body?
exhumed for DNA testing.
Well, do you have the results?
The right arm was missing, but there was no doubt that it was him. That body belongs to Solid Snake.
So the head of the terrorist group must be...
An imposter.
The Soliton radar has seen a shift since Metal Gear Solid 1. Not an inherently big one, but unlike the previous game where it was active perpetually on easy and normal difficulties, here it's activated by nodes and is completely optional. The way I see this difference is a subtle indication that technology, while already existent, hence the first game, is being slowly upgraded to require some form of internet access. At the first node, you're essentially forced to enter personal details for what was once an isolated element from the rest of the game. Yet here, the Soliton radar is connected to the theme of digitization. We see this now with digital games requiring external, superfluous account verification before being able to play. The PlayStation 2, of course, didn't have internet access. An account generalization going overboard wouldn't really happen until 2 generations later. However, the idea of the player entering their details before they can start playing truly is oddly prophetic. Digitizing of information has been set up since the tanker. As Snake, you simply need pictures of Metal Gear Ray to upload to the internet. Despite Snake's active role in the story, the strings are being played even against him from the start too. Snake is aware of the greater works at play and acts against them despite their anonymity. Snake isn't the only agent of knowledge in the game that Raiden interacts with physically. We also meet Emma Emmerich. This is the character you spend the most time in the flesh around. In combination with the gameplay mechanic of helping her get around and facing her fear of water, the game provokes a great deal of empathy as well as sympathy for the character. Emma is a perfect interweaving of the confines of gameplay joining with the narrative itself. As we escort her, we learn more about her and her theories on information control. It's not just filler or set dressing.
All of these are introduced separately and given time purely dedicated to them, when in fact they probably could have been combined or at least condensed very easily. Not to mention stuff like this.
What are those sticks in your head?
Isn't a very good use of my time.
You may think it boring to be holding her hand, lugging her around, yet it's just another step towards immersion. Same as those destructible objects inside the tanker. It makes the world and this character specifically more believable. It's not a JRPG where they disappear into you. Because of this increased intimacy with Emma, like with Snake, we are more prone to believe and accept her words. It is with her that the idea of data control is firmly set in motion for the climax of the story.
Do you know how many genes exist in an individual?
About 30 to 40,000?
Right, that's what was announced at the turn of the century, but there's actually 100,000 according to the original theory advanced by the scientific community. Information regarding the remaining 60,000 was suppressed by the Patriots.
No.
Why? How would you know? Do you know what a gene looks like? Did you count them yourself?
There are research organizations.
Of course, and their reports have already been subtly altered. They're even beginning to believe the doctored reports. GW is a system that allows the Patriots to decide what will be recorded in tomorrow's history.
So what we're talking about is one huge censorship system for deleting information which might be inconvenient to the Patriots.
Exactly.
Emma's connection to Otacon and paralleling of his story helps emphasize and allow the themes of nuclear to digital warfare, as well as science's involvement, flow over very naturally between the first game and this one. As Hal created Metal Gear Rex, Emma created the GWAI, setting most of the events of this game into motion. In her explanation of GW's function as a censorship AI, Y2K is brought up. The game uses this as a springboard to explain that every OS has a monetizational subsystem. Think of your operating system, the Wojak Windows, the Soy Boy Apple, the GigaChad Linux. While you may not inherently have a government agent accessing your files or tapping into your late-night Discord calls, the access capabilities are firmly in place.
The kid's wired with nanomachines.
The best way to hide this fact is hold it in plain sight. Screen sharing, password memorization, cloud storage, hacking. People are aware that their device can be taken control of. Gamers themselves can use programs such as Parsec, allowing for internet-based control of another device. Ever needed help fixing a really niche problem on your computer? Staff help services may ask if they can take control of your computer. If one system can be streamed, controlled, and accessed with consent, it can be done without. The technology seems to be almost tested on gamers as well as those who are so silly they need to access a helpline. At offices and schools, monitors can be, well, monitored. Every move watched. Emma's story within the game is a tragedy. She is brutally aware of the realities of her life as a neural AI engineer, and the distortion that her work can bring upon the world. Inspired to hurt her brother, while not fully detaching from familial bonds. Her betrayal of Otacon was one destined to fail. Well, technically she did succeed, but it did have a degree of consequences, and revealed the true villain behind everything. The idea of the game pulling the wool of one of your compatriots being an imposter isn't new either. Master Miller in the first game, come the final hour, was revealed to be Liquid all along. The twist of Campbell being an AI is just as potent of a reveal. However, extended to what if this person wasn't just someone disguised, but instead not even human to begin with. Your best online friend, not real. The one guy you call to play a game you both mutually despise, not real. Your mom, well, she's real. For now. And of course with this game's example, Campbell, but also Rose, Raiden's girlfriend. From what I can tell, many people aren't a big fan of Rose.
What are you doing here?
Jack, can you hear me?
Rose, you're not supposed to be involved. What's going on?
Jack, I'm a part of this mission.
Finding her and Raiden's love cheesy or unstable, which it is, in all fairness. But for the sake of the late game twist that she is being used by the Patriots to spy on Raiden, it works. We can't expect romanticized love stories to peek their way into reality, but that's what this is. Scripted movie love. To Raiden, however, it's real.
We went our separate ways from the museum, and then I found you again by coincidence out in the base corridor.
An amazing coincidence that we were actually working at the same place.
That night we went up to the top of the Empire State.
It was so beautiful. I could look down on the Chrysler building from 120 stories above ground.
I felt overwhelmed. I didn't care anymore who was right.
And that was our first date.
We watched King Kong in your apartment a bunch of times that night. Didn't sleep till morning. If it weren't for that coincidence, we wouldn't be together.
I know.
Rose's involvement as someone close to Raiden to aid in his mission is forced, even to him. He doesn't accept or fully believe her involvement to be real.
Jack, snap out of it.
And you, Rose, I can't believe you're on this mission. I keep thinking I'll wake up.
Raiden, this is real. And that's why you won't wake up.
But nothing seems real.
To the player, she's just another face to converse with. But to Raiden, she is quite literally his only reason to live and see this nightmare through. From the very start of their relationship, Rose has been perfectly selected to be, act, and behave just how Raiden views the ideal woman.
That day at Federal Hall 2 years ago, it wasn't a coincidence. I was ordered to keep an eye on you.
Keep an eye on me?
Popular movies, games, books, TV shows, it's all being filtered towards you to tell you what to like and dislike. To discover how this can be done, look right next to this goddamn video and see what YouTube has decided you want to watch next. Do you actually like the most popular games, books, and movies out there, or are you just simply agreeing with the status quo? That's the question here. We have so many ways of interpreting what is and isn't good in this world. Even if taste is a very personal thing to everyone, that manifests and changes at all time within our very souls, our very essences. You mean to tell me that it's a goddamn coincidence that the second I decided I was comfortable coming out of the closet as a mid to late 2000s girly pop music enjoyer, and I have been this whole goddamn time that I've existed, a bunch of other people, gym bros in particular, have decided, yeah, it's actually the greatest music of all time. So what changed, and why now? I'm the Carly Rae Jepsen enjoyer, not you.
I think taste would be the easiest thing to manipulate. I mean, think about the kinds of film and bands everyone wants to go to see. It's whatever's at the top of the charts.
And if the charts are made up...
Exactly.
But you can't really control individual taste. It's too closely tied to personality.
I don't know about that. Trends have always been about following the leader.
I reinvented myself to suit your tastes. Hairstyle, clothes, the way I moved, things I talked about. You say you love the color of my hair, my eyes. They're not even real.
You must have gone over my psych profile with a fine-tooth comb.
It was my job.
Great performance. Had me completely fooled.
What I really wanted was for you to see the real me. It hurt to play out this artificial romance. It was worse to lie to myself than to you. The more love you gave me, the more it hurt. Because I knew the person you loved was just a character.
So it was artificial on my end too. It was just a game, not the real thing.
Oh, Jack.
And that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching part 2. Part 3 will be with you soon. Sooner than this was. I'll say that much. Bye.